From the air and the water, the shark patrol continued for a third day. What appeared to be a 4.5 to 5 metre great white was first sighted close to shore at Merewether on Saturday. It was then spotted at Nobby's Beach yesterday afternoon and again today between the Stockton and Nobby's breakwalls.
We've seen other smaller sharks, and from time to time we see them and then they're not there when we check, but this is the first time that I've seen a really large shark in close and continue to hang around while we're looking at it.
Former lifeguard Warren Smith says the sightings are highly unusual for the area.
The concern of this one is the size of the shark, the proximity to the beach and to the swimmers and surfers, and the length of time it's been here. There's no fish around, there's no feed, so why it's here, that's what the lifeguards are trying to work out.
Beaches between Stockton and Merewether remained closed today.
It's a matter of concern, and everyone should obey the warning signs displayed and follow all the directions.
But the warnings weren't enough to concern some.
A little bit, but they're there all the time, so I'd probably never go surfing if I was worried about sharks.
Lifeguards will reassess the situation tomorrow morning before any decision is made to reopen the beaches. Renee Feder, NBN News.
The FFA fronted the media late this afternoon after an initial round of talks with the Jets hierarchy.
It's fair to say we do still have some concerns about the sustainability and ongoing operations of the club.
One thing the governing body would like to see at this early stage is Nathan Tinkler spending more time in Australia if he's going to be chairman.
Part of my conversation with Nathan is that he's committed to be in Australia more often, and certainly he is saying openly that he wants to take a more hands-on role. That involves being in Australia more often, being in Newcastle more often, and certainly that's our expectation. No doubt he'll be between both places, but we expect to see more of him here.
Earlier in the day, Northern New South Wales Football confirmed the club didn't meet funding obligations for the emerging Jets or W League sides in 2014. But David Eland says the youth program won't be affected this year.
As far as the emerging Jets is concerned for 2015, this liability will have no impact whatsoever.
The debt was expected to feature at the sit-down between the FFA and club officials.
It's great that the liability is top of their list today because we're a member of the FFA after all, and we've got a key part to play in the prosperity of the sport moving forward.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
Well, despite the wet and windy conditions here in Newcastle today, the crowd has been building up since mid-afternoon. Japan take on Palestine. The Samurai Blue are heavy favourites to win the game, but the Palestinian fans have turned out in force. Japan are, of course, the defending champions and one of the favourites to lift the Asian Cup, while Palestine only qualified for the tournament by winning the Challenge Cup. I'm joined by Asian Cup CEO Michael Brown, and Michael, it's been a long time in the planning, but it's finally here.
It's exciting, it's thrilling, 2.5 years, as you say, in the making, and congratulations to Newcastle and all of the Hunter region for the wonderful crowd that's turned out tonight.
How is the build-up? How's the crowd numbers looking?
Well, build-up's been fantastic. We're down to a couple of thousand tickets left, and there's a massive queue over at the front door, so I think we'll get very close to a sellout tonight, but in excess of 20,000 people. It's just great credit to everybody involved across the Hunter region, all the councils. Newcastle Council have been great supporters, the New South Wales Government. It goes on, but most of all, to people like you who've supported the event, it's fantastic. Our ambassadors, our volunteers, what a great celebration for Newcastle.
Thanks, Michael. And of course, there are still 3 more games here at Hunter Stadium. The first will be on Saturday night. Make sure you get your tickets. Sam Masters pushed Australian champion Jason Doyle all the way on Saturday night. Eventually finishing a close second in the final and runner-up overall. The result is the 23-year-old's best in the National Series.
I got fourth once before, but I think this year was a bit harder than that, and especially after the first round I was sitting in about ninth. It wasn't very good, so to come back from how I started, I'm pretty stoked with that.
Doyle has already qualified for the World Speedway Grand Prix, which puts Masters in line for a wildcard for the Melbourne leg of the series in October. Joining the circuit full-time is his long-term goal.
It's always been a dream to do a GP, and I never thought I'd get the opportunity, but it's a big step. It's a lot of money as well, and it takes a lot of money just to get there as well. So that's my aim. It might take a few years, but I can only do my best and see where it takes me.
Before then, Masters is preparing for another busy year on the track. He'll return to his Premier League Speedway team in Edinburgh in February, but his strong showing on the Australian Series has offers pouring in from teams across Europe.
As soon as I won that third round in Undera, then I had some calls, and then Saturday had a good night, and I was getting more calls again. So hopefully we can pick the right team and not have any dramas, and they can look after me.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
This paints a pretty honest picture of the situation right now. You don't really get used to the look of it. It's not like you show up the next day and it seems a bit better. It is what it is. It just doesn't end. Now the reality of it is like this is just going to be a push right until the end of the race. It's simple as that. We are in total recovery mode for the next 6 months.
Newcastle's beaches have never been closed this long, all because of what's lurking beneath the waves. This afternoon, there was another sighting at Burwood by a police boat.
The two officers inside the police boat have confirmed it's a great white shark, ranging in about 4 metres of size in length and a really wide girth on it apparently.
The shark alarm was sounded, prompting even the lifeguards on jet skis to get off the water. It's now almost certain it's not just one great white.
We've had quite a few sightings the last few days and some of them have happened simultaneously, so maybe there's more than one shark out there right now. We're asking surfers and that to just stay out of the water. We're taking this really serious. It's a large shark, so we don't want to take any risks.
Earlier today, Newcastle's beaches were all but deserted, but a few people ignored the warnings, while these French tourists had been looking forward to a taste of an Aussie summer.
It's the first day in Newcastle, so we want to go swim, but if there is shark, we stay on the beach.
As to why the great white's here, there's a few different theories floating around. Jeff Hyde, a commercial fisherman of 50 years, has seen many sharks, but none this close for such a long period of time.
One of the reasons they come in close to shore like this is to give birth to babies, see, and because they like protected water.
The other possible reason, there's large amounts of bait fish right now.
We had a mix of warm water which was common. It had been here for a few days, and then we had the cold water upwellings occur with a lot of nor'east winds, and it seemed to bring in a lot of marine life.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Hopefully the Commission will pick that up and decide to do something with it, and perhaps conduct a case study in Newcastle Hunter Valley.
Going, gone. If you're looking to buy in Newcastle, you may be up for more than you bargained for. House prices are on the rise and they're showing no signs of slowing.
And that's been fuelled primarily by the lack of supply coming into the marketplace and the fact that we've still got strong buyers all across the city.
The latest State Valuer General report puts Newcastle right up there with the best of them when it comes to residential land values. In the 12 months to July last year, the city recorded a 10.4% increase, pushing the median land price up to $255,000.
We've seen a slight demise in the Upper Hunter because of the mining situation there, but the Lower Hunter really has not been affected by that at all.
It's a good time for real estate agents, with more Sydney buyers casting their eyes north. But when it comes to snagging that dream home, some are finding their wallets aren't nearly deep enough.
You know, when you get a good property, it goes quick and the price is up.
I think they're too high for what they are, yeah.
You've certainly got to be spending over that $500,000 now to be getting something still relatively basic, I think.
There's also been a noticeable increase in overseas investment.
The job opportunity, the universities that we've got here, so that's certainly pleasing a lot of global buyers at the moment.
According to those in the know, there's only one way for the market to go, and that's up.
The way that this 12 months is coming on, it'll look like it'll continue at least throughout 2015.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It has been quite a challenge during the project, but one of the things that we asked the contractor to do through the contract was to maintain accesses to all of the businesses during business hours. They've been successful, I'd say, in doing that.
Back in Coffs Harbour, where his love of football began, Sam Galloway today entered a new phase in his career. His move to the Wanderers now made official with the mutual termination of his contract with the Jets.
Very exciting to be here. Like you said, new year, new team. Very happy to be a part of the Wanderers. You know, it's an exciting challenge for me and I'm looking forward to it.
The 22-year-old made 44 appearances for Newcastle following his debut in 2011. He denies the club's woes, including the loss of CEO Robbie Middleby and chairman Ray Bartz, influenced his decision.
Obviously it's hard when you're not winning, but everyone's still got their head held high and, you know, looking forward to the future, and, you know, it's a new year for them as well.
The former Jets Youth Player of the Year joins Western Sydney in time for its Asian Champions League title defence, which begins next month.
I thought it was a big thing for me to do. Obviously play Asian Champions League football is massive for my career, and that's what I wanted to be a part of.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News. Coming off a strong performance at the Master of the Amateurs event in Melbourne last week, Luke Toomey has a target on his back.
Very motivated going into the week, and managed to play some really nice golf, and just finishing in the top 15 in the first event of the year is always nice.
The 21-year-old finished second in the Lake Macquarie Amateur last year and has returned for another shot at the title. Standing in his way, a strong field, including Canadian Corey Connors, the 8th-ranked amateur in the world, while Ben Stowe is coming off a sensational 2014, where he made his mark on the US college circuit before returning home to England.
I won the English stroke play called the Brabazon Trophy, and then I finished 5th in the European Amateur, top 10 in the World Championship, so I had a very solid year.
He hopes to follow in the footsteps of fellow Brit Ryan Evans, who won last year's event and has since turned pro. Charlestown teenager Braden Peterson is quietly confident, given his local knowledge.
Belmont suits my game a little bit more. The win, pretty good win player, but I think just focus on chipping and putting this week and we should be right.
And organisers say the course record could fall.
The course is in very good condition. We've been blessed with the weather lately, and our green staff have been working pretty well every daylight hour that they can.
The tournament starts at 7 tomorrow morning. Lauren Kelly, NBN News. At 4 o'clock, the shark alarm sounded.
We have had an unconfirmed sighting of the large shark here this afternoon.
Lifeguards cleared the water at Nobby's Beach. Minutes later at Stockton, there was another unconfirmed sighting of the 1.7-tonne great white shark that has kept Newcastle beaches closed for a record 5 days.
It's a big deal because of the size of the shark, and it keeps popping up in close proximity to the coastline.
Lifeguards aren't taking any chances, again searching for the marine predator on jet skis. Despite the warnings and continued sightings, some swimmers and surfers risked getting back in the water.
Definitely it's a danger. I wouldn't like to swim with it. I've seen it, and it's a very large shark, and they do from time to time attack people.
This set of jaws belonged to a great white the same size as the one now lurking off Newcastle's coast. Paul Grunsell's father caught the 5-metre shark after it became trapped in a net back in 1974. This vision shows him clearing local shark nets during a surge in great white numbers to keep crowds safe.
If things are just right, the shark happens to be in the vicinity and he's hungry, well, he could possibly take somebody.
The second-generation fisherman believes the shark currently off our beaches poses a real threat.
No, there's no two ways about that. They are the proverbial man-eater. They're not really choosy what they eat. They just about almost eat anything, anything that's alive, really.
And there is evidence that the 5-metre-long beast is hunting and killing large prey. In the past week alone, the bodies of 2 dolphins have washed up on Newcastle beaches, each bearing large and clear bite marks. Beachgoers aren't the only ones suffering. The shark's presence is also biting local business takings.
It's been a bit slower than normal and our shifts have been cut a little bit, so that's kind of bad for us.
Given this afternoon's possible sighting, it's unlikely beaches will reopen tomorrow. Patrols will continue from land, sea and air.
If he's still around, we'll see him, and we're up again tomorrow as well. So, yeah, if he's about, hopefully we'll come across him and let the locals know where he is.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
They're the reforms credited with helping to save lives. In Newcastle, the number of assaults has reduced by almost 40% since the introduction of lockout restrictions in 2008. While further south, similar measures have resulted in St Vincent's Hospital seeing a 50% reduction in the number of emergency patients with alcohol-related injuries. Now the state government is reassessing lockouts in Sydney a year earlier than expected, and that's got those who pushed for the changes in the Hunter fearful the government could create legislation that would also relax restrictions here.
Given the government's propensity to listen to the industry ahead of the community, ahead of the police and the doctors, we're very concerned that this may occur in Newcastle.
Police here in Newcastle say while they welcome the review, they're pleased with the impact the reforms have had in town, but say there's plenty more that can be done to make Newcastle's nightlife safer.
Will Creedon, chairman of Tourism Hunter, says there needs to be a balance between ensuring people's safety and promoting employment and tourism opportunities.
They have liberal laws all over the world, and people recreate calmly amongst those laws. Why can't they do it here?
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Take a walk through Muswellbrook Hospital and it's clear to see it's a little dated. Something $20 million for further upgrades is designed to fix. The acting Premier hit Muswellbrook today to deliver the good news.
This hospital will look different, it will be different, it will be more functional, and it will have critical services here available to take away the burden of people having to travel.
Chemotherapy and renal dialysis services will be expanded, as well as the day surgery and ambulatory care facilities.
The community of Muswellbrook have been
putting up with some facilities that aren't quite up to standard. They're delivering excellent services, but just in facilities that aren't really up to the mark.
The dollars required for the project will come from the state's Resources for Regions program. Earlier this year, Muswellbrook Council made the submission listing the project as its priority.
A great outcome. Our focus, of course, now immediately shifting to stage 3, which will complete the job.
For Nationals candidate Michael Johnson, it was a good way to officially begin his election campaign.
The importance of having care, the best quality care at a local level, cannot be underestimated.
It's not known exactly when the redevelopment will begin. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
He finished runner-up last year, but New Zealand's Luke Toomey is determined to go one better in 2015. This putt for par was part of an impressive round of 67. Playing alongside Toomey on day one, Ben Stowe from the UK is 5 shots back. He finished with a 72, but had no luck with this birdie putt on the 5th. Rounding out their trio, Cade McBride from the Gold Coast carded a first round 70 to sit comfortably inside the top 10. Another Kiwi didn't enjoy his best day on course. Tay Ko won last year's Australian Amateur title, but he's 11 shots off top spot thanks to a 78. Victoria's Lucas Herbert is ranked 5th in the world as an amateur. He made light work of the par 5 4th, narrowly missing out on an eagle before tapping in for birdie. He sits 2 shots off top spot. Charlestown's Braden Peterson is one of the Hunter's best hopes, but a bogey on 15 didn't help his cause. He'll start day 2 7 shots off the leaders.
It was great. Close vision, it was just seeing sets and I guess long distance driving and stuff like that. My eyes were starting to fail me a bit, so I've been putting it off for a while and I finally got it done in the off season, so hopefully I'll be the new and improved Joel. It's good to have a bit of a warm-up and dust the cobwebs off, surf a few heats. I've done it before, you've come in and just surfed the first big event at Snapper Rocks, you feel a bit green and it's good just to, I guess, get the blood flowing.
He's a qualified coach and spent time playing for Wanderers while studying at Newcastle University. For Andrew Fairfull, NHRU General Manager is a dream job.
My involvement recently in rugby has been more coaching than administration, but why not get paid to be involved in a game you love? Got a corporate background, so combined with my passion and background in rugby union, perfect fit.
The new GM says he'd love to see more players from the Hunter follow in the footsteps of Luke Burgess and Josh Valentine by playing for their state and country. But without funding from the ARU, his priority on a local level is financial stability.
The support financially down into grassroots isn't there, so we're fighting for ourselves in terms of financial money, how we find it, how we raise it, and how we sustain the game financially going forward in the region.
Among the projects already on the drawing board are the Stage 2 and 3 developments at Number 2 Sports Ground. Entering a Hunter-based team in the National Rugby Championship is a long-term goal, but again, money is a factor.
Costs $600,000 to $700,000 a year to run those sides. So obviously, where do we find the money? How do we fund it? Who's going to partner it?
Ripe for the taking, but just who is picking these grapes bothers vigneron Bruce Tyrrell.
Today we had 65 people picking and we had about 150 on a list. Unfortunately, less than 10 of those are locals. We don't have a queue out there this morning of people from the Hunter Valley looking for a job.
Mr Tyrrell has nothing against backpackers or those just passing through, but says he would like to see more locals making the most of the employment opportunity, even if it is just seasonal, particularly when the mining industry, which is on the vineyard's doorstep, is in the middle of tough times.
Oh, look, I believe all of my picking team should be locals. If we've got young people that are unemployed, sure, it's 4 or 5 weeks' work. But, in the middle of the year, when we're pruning, that's sort of May through August.
Today was just day one of the harvest and it's shaping up to be a fine one. This 12-tonne haul will be turned into sparkling Chardonnay.
In the hotter, drier years, often sugars are rising faster than flavour, and that's a real problem. But this year we've got the flavours early, so particularly whites. This could be one of the great white years.
Vivian von Draenen, NBN News.
Newcastle's shark saga has gained international attention, rating a mention in the Irish Examiner, New Zealand Herald, Houston Chronicle and UK Telegraph. The Great White even has a Twitter account, Newy Shark. In spite of the warnings, people continue to swim and surf at Newcastle's beaches. The debate over whether or not a great white shark remains in waters off Newcastle has now firmly been settled. And while it's not known whether this is the same fish that has been stalking the coastline for the best part of a week, one thing is for certain, Newcastle's beaches will remain closed tomorrow. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
I think the Liberal Party has done their own party a disservice and their own supporters a disservice by leaving it so late.
It has been hotter and drier during 2014, but we have had less bushfires during that year, and we see that as one of the key reasons why the figures were lower.
It's the art prize that captures national attention, and for the next 4 weeks, the best of this year's Archibald entries will call Maitland Regional Art Gallery home.
This is the largest Archibald Prize ever staged. It has 54 paintings and we are able to show all of it.
From the traditional to the confronting, the 2014 exhibition has it all. Some subjects are instantly recognisable, others not so much. Actresses, sportsmen and big business types among some of the famous faces.
So there's some faces like Kate Blanchett, for example, and people would know that, Nick Cave.
But the country's top portrait prize isn't just about celebrity.
It used to be every second painting you did know the people. Now people paint their children, paint their family, paint themselves.
It's only the second time the Archibalds, which this year includes Fiona Lowry's winning portrait, has come to Maitland.
We've been planning this for over 3 years now, and it's interesting to try to do that when you don't actually know physically what you're going to get.
With the exhibition's official opening less than 24 hours away, it's all hands on deck. Every inch of wall space is being put to good use. The public can check out the Archibalds from Saturday until February 22. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
We've seen that with Jared Mullen last year when he tore his hamstring. We missed him for a chunk of the first part of the year. The Nines is a small part of the year, and it would be a huge achievement for any team that won it. But look, our main focus is the main comp, the NRL comp.
It's been a race to remember so far for Toby Price, and it could become even better. The Dakar's 10th stage took competitors on a marathon 371-kilometre journey through Argentina. For the 27-year-old from Aberglasson, it was a day of making up lost ground, clawing back more than 4 seconds on the rider who currently sits third, Pablo Quintanilla. Price ended up 24 seconds behind the Chilean in the standings with 3 stages left. Closer to home, Hunter-bred swimmer Thomas Fraser-Holmes is set for his first taste of major competition in 2015, with the Aquatic Super Series set to get underway in Perth at the end of the month, and he knows just how important every event is.
They call it the moving year because you want to be moving, you want to be pushing towards the top spots and really putting yourself in a great position come Rio.
To the Asian Cup, and Oman's coach Paul Le Guin says pride's on the line for his players in Saturday night's clash with Middle East rivals Kuwait at Hunter Stadium. It's a dead rubber for both sides, who are both winless in the tournament after 2 matches. Michael Kane, NBN News. It's a testing 24 kilometres for the best paddlers in the country. After winning the inaugural Moon Island Classic 3 years ago, Greg Tobin fell agonisingly short in 2014, finishing runner-up to the Gold Coast Corey Hill. Now he wants the title back.
I like this race. It's Newcastle's race. We try and get people up from Sydney or everywhere, and I know the course well, so constantly training it.
A quality field will line up, including former Olympians Jim Walker and Peter Scott, and Wollongong young gun Mackenzie Heinard, just to name a few.
We've got the Northern Beaches, Mark Anderson, a former Australian team member. He'll be mixing it with the field, and we've got the young guys, Isaac Costello from Redhead Surf Club and Sam DeJordan from Swansea Belmont, mixing the field up as well.
The course is yet to be determined, depending on conditions and shark sightings.
Bureau hasn't really given us solid figures yet on the wind because it is dependent on which direction the wind is coming from. So we could be going from Noria Head to Blacksmiths or Nobby's Beach through to Blacksmiths here.
For Tobin, the endurance race is just the start of a busy schedule.
Newcastle Championships, New South Wales Championships and Australian Championships up in Kirra. And then we mix it really into the long distance stuff with a clash of the paddles in Hamilton Island.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
A picturesque coastline held hostage by one of nature's greatest predators. For 7 straight days, Newcastle beaches have been off limits. The first of several massive sharks spotted on Saturday, and this morning it didn't take long for another confirmed sighting to be made.
A smaller shark initially out off Merriweather Beach.
At 10 a.m, a 3.5 metre shark was also sighted at nearby Burwood Beach. Back on shore, the warning was clear. Some took their chances, but the majority chose to cool off somewhere far safer.
Too scared to take the kids in, yeah.
Caught up with my girlfriend and she said, well, let's go for a swim, but then the sharks, so we couldn't. So we've come here and it's just been beautiful.
While Newcastle's beaches may be famous, the city's never experienced anything like this.
This is a bit like the shark version of the Pasha Bolka.
The ocean predators have captured both national and international attention. Social media also sent into overdrive.
Sharks are amazing animals. The more we look at them, the more fascinating they become, the more we find out about them.
Beaches will remain closed for the weekend, but the message is the same.
Lifeguards say they don't want to scare swimmers out of the water, but there is a danger in becoming complacent.
We are getting these sightings regularly each day, so it's hard to put a time frame on when's safe to go back in the water or when we may open the beaches.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's their largest claim yet.
I knew it'd definitely be highly significant on a national level.
An area stretching 2 kilometres out from the entrance of Newcastle Harbour, the world's busiest coal port.
In 2014 there was over $30 billion exported from the Hunter region.
The region generates well over half of the state's mining royalties, around $1.5 billion. The Land Council wants a slice of the pie to help with education and employment for Aboriginal people.
The Wabakon and Newcastle Aboriginal community don't receive any royalties from these mining companies, so we never want to halt progress. We want the city to move forward, but we would be hoping to sit down and discuss with the mining companies some sort of royalties that come across.
It's very big because I've got 5 generations in my family that work the creek and also fish. Our fisher rights were taken away from us.
It's the 10th claim lodged in a week, including the rail corridor, with plans for more.
And it's within our rights to put a land claim in over Crown land.
When people move on in the positions that they have done, it could cause some concern amongst people that's working in the franchise. There's certainly been quite some activity from ourselves in terms of trying to look for somebody that can come in and fill a void.
It's a battle that always pushes Hamwicks and Merriweather to the limit.
Yeah, every time we play them, it brings out the best in them, definitely, and hopefully it'll bring out the best in us.
And this Sunday, the two clubs go head-to-head in their quest to claim country club cricket's biggest prize, the SCG Cup. Hamwicks go in as defending champions.
Knocked off Tamworth last year, and probably be a tougher day this Sunday against Merriweather, but we're a 50-50 chance, I'd say.
One player the Lions will look to will be its inspirational captain, Simon Moore.
Early wickets will be the key, if we can knock over Morey early, and that's not to say they don't bat deep, but it's definitely a big wicket.
While for Hamwicks, Mark Dries also looms large with the bat.
Dries is playing a bit more consistently now, which makes a big difference as well.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
He may no longer be the Liberals' first choice, but Gary Edwards hasn't given up the fight. The Swansea MP was last night handed his marching orders, expelled from the party and disendorsed as its state candidate.
Very premature indeed.
Mr Edwards says he strongly disagrees with the party's reasoning that he may cause embarrassment in the future.
If the party's going to be suffer any embarrassment, I believe it'll be through actions such as last night's in expelling me.
It follows the ICAC inquiry, which heard Mr Edwards allegedly accepted money from Newcastle developer Jeff McCloy. He subsequently moved to the crossbench, but refused to stand down as the Liberal candidate.
My position was, you want to get rid of me, you sack me. Because first and foremost, my allegiance was to my electorate.
Mr Edwards believes he may be a casualty of party infighting, and he hasn't ruled out running as an independent.
I'll probably take at least the next week to mull it over and to discuss it very in depth with my family, my wife.
With 10 weeks until voters head to the polls, the Liberal Party has its work cut out for it. Not only does it have to fill the void now in Swansea, it's also yet to name its candidates for the seats of Wallsend and Lake Macquarie. Councillor Jason Pauling is the latest to enter the election race, named the Liberal candidate for Charlestown. Amanda Douglas, NBN News. Young and ambitious, Labor candidate Declan Clawson hit the streets in New Lambton today.
Putting the case, I think, for progress and to protect our local services, and those are the things that I'm standing for.
The 22-year-old is an engineering honours student at the University of Newcastle. If elected, he would be a voice to residents in Jesmond, Waratah, Lambton, New Lambton and Katara.
I think that if I was elected, I'd be able to represent all people, not just young people on council.
He says he wants to influence development in Newcastle.
I'm really interested in being part of some of those decisions. There have been decisions that have been made by previous councils that I haven't agreed with necessarily, and so I'm looking forward to, if I was elected, representing a new demographic.
Independent candidate Kath Elliott says the Labor Greens' balance of power prompted her to run.
They will have the complete control over decision making in the council.
The election hopeful has lived in Newcastle for over 20 years and wants progress to move forward in the city.
I understand Newcastle and I understand the region very, very well. I understand the issues and I love this city and I really want to see it develop sensitively and sensibly in the future.
The Greens are expected to announce their candidate tomorrow. Those in Ward 3 will go to the polls on February 21. Georgina Smythe, NBN News. It's smiles like this that make it all worthwhile.
The smiles are what does it, absolutely.
For 17 years, the Disabled Surfers Association has been coming to Blacksmiths Beach.
It just feels really good that you're in a safe environment. Everyone's there to help you and you don't have to be scared if you fall off the board.
And that's what the association is all about, giving people with mental and physical disabilities a day of fun in the water.
Even for Gabe, it's with his limited abilities, he loves it.
But the hard slog from the car park to the surf is starting to take its toll.
We have beach wheelchairs that can get them on and off the beach. Our problem is it's a distance along the sand.
The volunteer-run groups decided to look for an alternative home and is hoping a surf club with adequate disabled facilities will put its hand up.
We're going to look at another 2 venues, one south of Blacksmiths and then one to the north of Newcastle.
For now, it'll stay put, just grateful it has somewhere to share happy memories. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Sharks may have put a stop to most beach-related activities, but they couldn't halt a 33-kilometre canoe scamper. Calm conditions met 24 clubs from up and down the east coast of Australia, all vying for the Pasha Dasher crown. Port Hacking placed third in last year's event and were determined to go one better.
It's a little bit flat. We like a bit of wind behind us, a bit of swell, but we're going into it and coming back with it, so that's not too bad.
The Port Stephens crew have been eyeing off this event for months, and today was the day to go all out.
We've kind of been training hard. We've got a good crack team. We're up against the best in the state. I think we're going to do well, sure.
Defending champions Cronulla were giving it their all. The Sydney club from Darling Harbour were also pressing claim, but it was the Port Hacking club who couldn't be headed, opening up too much of a margin which no one could close. Port Hacking had cause for double celebration, also taking out the women's category. Michael Kane, NBN News.
We've only got Sam Gallagher as a recognised left back, although David Carney can play there as well and do a good job there. So that's a player that we'll be probably looking at. Elsewhere on the pitch, we'll wait and see